I want to thank everybody for being here, and especially want to thank Secretary Brooke Rollins for being back in the great state of Texas for what is going to be a very important announcement today. Before we get into the substance of what we talk about, I want to thank not only Secretary Rollins for being here, but we have our own Texas Ag Commissioner Sid Miller, who's with us here today. We have representatives both at the state and federal level from across the state. We have State Representative Helen Kerwin, Stan Kissman, Ryan Guillen, Congressman Tony Gonzalez, Senator Perry, Glenn Hager. Where's he? Oh, there. Happiest guy in the room right now.
Yeah, my Aggie.
And Representative Money, as well as Representative Buckley. And did I miss any representatives? So I got Kissman. Yeah, okay, good. So one of the reasons why I wanted to go through the list of the representatives is if you go through the geography of it, there's representation here from the top of the Panhandle all the way to South Texas. And there's a reason for that, because the issue we're talking about today involves every square inch of the state of Texas. But also you'll find out that it involves every square inch of the United States of America. This is an issue that is essential to the cattle industry, to food supply, which are at risk because of a screwworm. Speaking of people who are here, we have with us gathered today members from the ag industry. Many of them are ranchers. Many of them are involved in the cattle industry. Many are involved in other livestock sectors. Every livestock sector, and I'll throw in deer population in addition to the cattle population. They're all at risk because of the screwworm. This is an enormous challenge, and you need to understand the magnitude just in Texas. This can result in billions of dollars of losses a year. It could truly crush the cattle industry as well as other livestock industry in Texas. And in doing so, it's going to lead to a dramatic spike increase in what people are paying in groceries when they go to the grocery store and try to buy food. To begin to address this, a few weeks ago, I announced the Texas New World Screwworm Response Team, who've been working on strategies to better address this at the state level. The reality is this is a national and international issue. The screwworm typically comes from South America, makes its way up through Central America into Mexico before reaching Texas. It has gone through all of those geographic regions and now is in southern part of Mexico and is nearing Texas. And we are going to face these dire economic consequences. Our industries, our ranchers, people who buy groceries are going to face these dire consequences if action is not taken to deny the ability of the screwworm being able to get into the state of Texas. And as a result, someone who loves Texas is stepping up and taking action. And that's President Trump. He was here with me last month, and he told the public, Donald Trump loves the state of Texas and the people of this state. He also is concerned about the cost of rising inflation that would result from rising beef prices. And so he sent to us the person who is in charge of this issue at the United States and international level, and that is his Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Brooke, we're proud to have you here today.
Governor, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here. It's a real honor. I was just back with the governor in the office and saying the last time I was in this office was 22 or 23 years ago as a young staffer for then Governor Rick Perry. So kind of a full circle moment for me. What a great country we live in. And it's just such a joy to be home. And not that you, sir, are not the most important person in the room, but State Representative Helen Kerwin, my mom, who you mentioned, is right over here to the left, along with so many of our great representatives. A quick shout out to Commissioner of Agriculture Sid Miller. He has been my partner on this now for 6 months, and and no one knows more or has fought more mightily for our cattle ranchers, especially in Texas, but around the country, and your leadership is so appreciated, Sid. Thank you. Again, what a great joy to be here, and I love the shout out to my boss, President Trump, whom I've been next to for now almost 10 years. First Trump White House, domestic policy chief, building in the interim the plans for a second Trump White House, and then to now serve as his Secretary of Agriculture, but specifically to be the first Texan, the first Aggie. Glenn Hagar in this role has been just the great blessing of a lifetime. Again, what a joy to be here. So grateful to my friend Governor Abbott. Davy Crockett once called Texas the garden spot of the world. And having seen much of the world now as the Secretary of Agriculture over the last 6 months, it is true. And again, the greatest blessing to be back. What a great location here in our Texas capital. Working in Washington, D.C. every day, it's impossible to spot the United States Capitol without thinking that it looks a little small next to our own Texas state capitol. I also want to give, again, another shout out to Governor Abbott for hosting us today. It's been really such a great partnership working alongside him these last 6 months, and remembering very well what a champion for freedom he is, and how Texas will continue to lead the way in freedom and liberty and less government and deregulation, and how proud I am to have been a small part of that for a long time, but now seeing the impact and the effect of your leadership at the national level, I think continues to inspire. Governor, your steadfastness and strength, especially in the worst of times, which I witnessed firsthand last month when I came down with President Trump, again, continues to be such an inspiration. And in those times, that leadership is certainly more honored and admired and respected, and just so valuable. So thank you for that. The USDA is privileged to work alongside the state of Texas to see that our affected farmers and ranchers receive the help they need in the face of all tragedy, but especially in this last one, playing a role where we can as USDA was a priority and continues to be. I also want to thank Governor Abbott, even though we're not here today to talk about SNAP or food stamps, but he is one of 11 governors from around the country that submitted a waiver that has been approved. I was honored to sign just last week that starting in April of next year, taxpayers will no longer be funding sugary drinks and candy in the state of Texas for those in our SNAP program. Obviously, again, as we mentioned, the reason we're here today is Governor Abbott so eloquently started us is on the New World Screwworm and what that potentially means for our cattle markets and for this great country. Farm security is national security, and ensuring that we in the Trump administration are doing everything we can every day to protect American farmers, American ranchers, and American consumers continues to be our highest priority. We are here in Austin, Texas to address a serious national security issue and threat. It is a threat to our ranching community, represented by so many of my friends over here to my left, but it is also a threat to our nation, and that threat is the New World Screwworm. The New World Screwworm is a flesh-eating parasite. People think it's actually a worm, but it's not. It's actually a parasite that torments cattle and even the occasional human or household pet. This pest, which was once eradicated in the United States decades ago, has now reemerged dangerously close to our southern border, closest to Texas, but also waging a war with our friends in Arizona and New Mexico as well. Its peril is not just in the cause, but because it endangers the livelihood of our livestock, it endangers our livestock industry, and it threatens the stability of beef prices for consumers across America. That's a dinner table issue, as Governor Abbott mentioned, and one that affects every American home and community, directly affecting the cost of groceries and therefore the cost of living. All Americans should be concerned, but it's certainly Texas and our border and livestock producing states that are on the front lines of this every day. In early July, a detection just 370 miles from Texas sent a clear message. The threat is real and the time to act is now. That's why today we are building on the comprehensive 5-pronged plan I announced on June 18th in Edinburgh, alongside Congressman Gonzalez and several others from Washington, to combat the New World Screwworm's northward spread. So far, to date, Before today, we have suspended live cattle, horse, and bison imports through U.S. ports of entry along the southern border. We have launched an $8.5 million sterile fly dispersal facility in South Texas, and we have invested about $21 million towards renovating an existing sterile fruit fly production facility in Mexico to produce up to 100 million more sterile flies needed for eradication. That's to date. We've audited Mexico's surveillance program, trapping, and movement. We have held 4 public listening sessions on sterile fly production technology, eradication tools and technologies, and the benefits and barriers of enhanced domestic and international sterile fly production. Much of what we have heard at those listening sessions informed our plan that I will be sharing with you now. Today, we are going even further and taking the most sweeping actions in our country's history to date to stop this pest in its tracks. First, today we are announcing USDA will invest and build a domestic sterile fly production facility in Edinburgh, Texas, which is situated about 20 miles from the southern border and complements the dispersal facility we have already begun production on, with a capacity to produce 300 million sterile screwworm flies per week, and that's how we eradicate the parasite. This facility will triple our current output and eliminate our sole reliance on Panama and Mexico for sterile fly supply, putting America first. It's a tactical move that ensures we are prepared and not just reactive, which is to date what we have really been working through. We will invest, the federal government, up to $750 million on this facility, not an insignificant investment, and it will also create about 300 jobs right here in Texas. Second, we are launching up to $100 million in addition to the $750 million to identify and deploy cutting-edge technologies that can accelerate our response while the construction of the facility is underway. From novel traps and lures to modular sterile fly units, I am calling on the brightest minds in the country to build on our existing tools and help us outpace this pest quickly and in the most innovative way possible. Third, because of the migration of infected wildlife over the U.S. border, keeping in mind, Governor, and those who know this issue well know, back in the 1950s and 60s, we didn't have this population of wildlife in South Texas the way we do now. But we are ramping up the hiring of USDA-employed mounted patrol officers known as the tick riders or the tick crew. I actually went and rode the border with them about a month or two ago, which will be the cornerstone of our surveillance program. The tick riders are mounted on horseback and will provide the first line of defense against a New World screwworm outbreak along the U.S.-Mexico border. We're also training our beagles of the Beagle Brigade to detect screwworm infections and will be significantly ramping up our border surveillance program with those and others. And finally, because pests don't care where the border is, we are working directly with Mexico, perhaps in a way never seen before. My counterpart, Secretary Julio Bertigay, and I are in contact almost daily on this issue at this point. We are working with Mexico to boost the surveillance training and oversight inside Mexico to ensure real-time tracking and reaction time while the U.S. works to verify Mexico's reported results and to help them improve their systems south of the border. Mexico has agreed to halt animal movement in affected zones, which will help push screwworm back towards the Darien Gap and away from our doorstep. The entire Trump administration is working in one coordinated effort to prevent this pest from entering the United States. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, of course helmed by our friend Dr. Marty McCary, underneath Secretary Bobby Kennedy, is identifying current animal drugs, whether authorized in the U.S. or abroad, fast-tracking those that would likely be effective against the New World screwworm. FDA has been a strong partner and is currently undergoing expedited avenues to ensure animal medical countermeasures are available. USDA and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, are constantly monitoring our ports of entry, again, to keep the pest away. We are working alongside Secretary Chris Wright in the Department of Energy and Administrator Lee Zeldin in the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, on new innovations to combat the pest. More coming on that. And we will continue to take all necessary steps across the entirety of the federal government, working alongside our partners at the state government and in the local governments to ensure that we keep this pest, this parasite, and others like it out of our country, that threaten our economy and our way of life. Again, I want to thank Governor Abbott, his incredible team here in the Capitol and in Austin for their amazing partnership, their quick reaction. I again want to thank the great Sid Miller for his partnership as we work toward a quick solution to this risk. And with that, Governor, I think we're happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
Yes, obviously this is a massive economic challenge for them when we shut our border down and don't allow their livestock to be imported. But I want to give a big amount of credit to their Secretary of Agriculture, who has been very resolute and a good partner. Having said that, we have had major issues in Mexico. For a while there, we couldn't land a lot of our planes, which were dispersing the sterile fruit flies. This is a couple of months ago. We didn't believe we were getting data in real time. We didn't know what data we could trust. So that's the reason we shut the ports down. And they were not happy about that. They continue to push very hard for us to open those ports, but I have been very clear to them over and over again that those ports don't open until we begin to push the screwworm back. And so I think that's important. So we're making progress. The partnership is as strong as it has ever been. They have been very open to us hiring, significantly ramping up USDA employees to work alongside their team in Mexico so that we have data based on our staff, not just based on what they're telling us. You know, I'll defer to Governor Abbott. I believe that's a big point of debate right now in this next special session. I have not heard from farmers specifically on that. I think they're much more worried about the drought and the cost of making money, especially our grain, our row croppers. Obviously, labor issue continues to be a significant challenge in opening up the world to new trade deals, which the president has done a remarkable job on. Secretary Arthur, thank you for being here with us. One of my key people I rely on, in addition to Sid Miller, so Blaine, great to have you from our neighbor in
There you
Oklahoma.
go, of course.
First, the pause will be as long as it is necessary until we get this under control. As it began to move northward, this was one of the first briefings I had. I was announced on November 23rd of last year as President Trump's selection. I had my hearing January 22nd or 23rd, I believe, and then sworn in on February 13th. This particular issue has been at the top of the list from the very moment that I was announced. Under the Vilsack administration, they were, working on it, not quite at the same aggressive level that we are, not surprisingly, but this has been around for a long time. We expect with these announcements and the aggressive strategy to begin to push back the screwworm, but when it was even at 1,100 miles from the Texas border, which is where we believed it had stopped until we got the report about 4 weeks ago that it was within 370 miles, even then we were shutting the ports down. So we've got a lot of data to collect, we've got a lot of work to do, but we have to protect our cattle industry and our beef industry in this country, and in so doing protect our food supply, and in so doing protect our national security for America. Do we expect beef prices to continue to rise? Perhaps, but the safety and the security of our beef and our ranchers has to be at the top of the list. The other thing I'll say is that the vision perhaps is that we begin to rely even more on American cattle producers, that we give them even more of a market, that we open that up. President Trump's vision of America first is an America where you are not so reliant on the rest of the world to feed and fuel and to provide the fiber that we need in this country. And perhaps a silver lining long term is that we continue to build out our beef industry here in America and not rely on other countries. Yes, sir. I don't believe there's been, based on everything we have in the data, there's no impact yet. I don't want to count that out because there could be eventually, but I believe, and this is more hypothetical than anything based on data, but without us taking these significant, very aggressive steps, and by the way, this is not just USDA and me sitting up in Washington saying, let's do this. This discussion has been at the very top level. I've talked to President Trump specifically about it. He was obviously very interested and wanted to know all the details about what a new world screwworm was in only President Donald Trump fashion. And we went into great detail on that. But he has said whatever we need to do to protect our farmers and our ranchers. He has been unequivocal and resolute in his support of our agriculture industry across this country. I have to say there's never been a president, at least in our lifetimes, that has been more so than President Trump. But obviously his promise to the American people last year to, number one, secure the border, but number two, work on the cost of living for all everyday and average Americans. That is all very, very important to him. I believe sincerely without these very, very aggressive steps that the screwworm would have gotten to our border already and would have already been in our country. So we're doing everything we can to stop it, but also with Plan B and Plan C, talking about the FDA and how we would treat it as if it does get closer. We don't believe it will, but what we need to do in those instances as well. Thank you.
So listen, as usual, the options are always on the table. What's on the table right now is a record-breaking amount of funding and strategy coming from the Trump administration, and we need to calibrate what the needs are in Texas in the aftermath of this incredible announcement today.
One more question.
You can. I'll come back to you. This topic is so very important. If there's another question concerning the screwworm, we got a hand up back here.
Thank you. That's actually a really, really great question. The good news is more air base is already there. The infrastructure is there. It won't happen tomorrow or next week, but we are fast tracking in every possible way. Hopefully within a year, we'll have that moving. And again, that 300 million additional sterile flies, in addition to what we're already producing in Panama and Mexico, should allow us to eradicate and control this forever for the distant future, but in the near future, also putting these other steps in place to really move it back immediately is important as well.
Yeah. For one, it's a joke, but also according to Politico, 2/3 of his state disagree with him on that. And for him to be able to get anything passed, he has to have 2/3 of the state agree with him on it. It's a joke. He's posturing for the presidency and doing nothing more than that. He's all talk and no action.
All right, that's it.
Every strategy is at play. Depends on when and whether the Democrats show up. They talk as though they're going to be showing up today or tomorrow. We'll wait and see. But we hold a lot more bullets in our belt that we'll be ready to use if we need to. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.